Well, welcome guys, thanks for checking out this video. So we're going to be looking into some of the features that the more recent soft mod has brought us with FreePSXboot. Now one feature I really want to try and dwell into and give you more details on is how to force your PAL games into NTSC. Now I don't know if you remember, but with the PlayStation Classic there was a bit of an uproar, especially over in America, because the games that were actually featured on the system were PAL region, which means they were featured in 50 Hz, so the games featured a little bit slower. But personally over here in the UK and also in the PAL zones, we're already used to it, so we personally didn't see a problem with that. But of course the games were slower and America and Japan did not like that. So we're going to jump into what is the benefits of 50 and 60 Hz. I do remember back in the day as a kid when we would play the PlayStation 1, the Dreamcast, they would ask you, do you want 50 Hz options or 60 Hz options? So in the early 90s, a lot of our tube TVs, if you remember them, would only have a 50 Hz output, and then later on they would have 60 Hz as well as an option. So that's why it actually gives you that choice. I did a video quite a while back now when I actually showed you how to get a better video output for the PlayStation 2, and I covered how to get 50 and 60 Hz and progressive out of your PlayStation 2 games. And a couple of people did ask, are there any ways to actually get 60 Hz actually output on all the systems? So now thanks to this soft mod we can actually do this. So I'm going to jump into some further details and see what that compatibility is like and what the benefits with this actual 60 Hz output. Now before I forget, over 90% of my viewers are not subscribed to my channel. I do hope that you're enjoying this content, and it would help and support the channel a lot if you hit that subscribe button, or even if you like retro gaming itself. I would actually cover more features of this soft mod that the future will bring, and also cover content regarding newer games to come to the consoles. So let's get into the benefits of 60 Hz for the PlayStation 1. Well, here's my copy of Tekken 2 running on my standard PAL console using a PAL copy. No soft mod is applied of what you see in this video. This is what we got in the UK and Europe and also Australia, though PAL is not exactly worse than that of the NTSC version that America and Japan got. It just runs differently. Being used to PAL 50 Hz, this is probably the best way to hit those nostalgia strings. But here are the specs with the PAL video output on these consoles. They were designed to run at 576 vertical lines, which actually run a higher resolution than that of the NTSC, but does create a slower refresh rate. That is because of historically and electrically the equipment was originally designed that way. This was because throughout the 19th century it was to create a bit more of a monopoly. 50 Hz was a standard in UK to coincide with other types of electrical goods after the World War, to create a legal sweet spot to agree with other European electrical standards. There is of course a lot more to this factor, but this was just generally an agreement, so then other electronic goods could actually have a legal need to be actually distributed around Europe and in the UK. To capture this footage, I'm using the level high HDMI adapter for the PlayStation 1, which is a straight pass through of the RGB output and upscaling that to 720p. But because of its original console resolution when setting it to PAL PS1, the HD screens will generate a gap between the top and the bottom, as you can see with the indicated arrows. The bars at the top and bottom were not always visible using the original tube TVs. This was because of its aspect ratio and picture projection. So at the time, this was not really considered a problem. As most games at the time were designed outside of the PAL zone areas, the games would go under a change with the video output resolution and refresh rate to actually accommodate this factor. You win! So now let's get into the benefits of NTSC 60 Hz output, and let's boot up that soft mod of FreePSXboot. If you're interested in how to set up the soft mod for your PlayStation 1 console with FreePSXboot, I will put that in the description box below. So this does take a couple of seconds just to activate it, and then you should come across a very basic type of screen, as it says at the top there, Unirom Basic. So they does give you a couple of options here provided. This will probably give you a bit more options later on in the future. I do hope that they do work on this, but to be honest, it does a good job as it is. So you can actually select the memory cards as well. You can transfer and delete data. You can also check out things like the status of your console. So it gives you the actual ROM version of your actual console, your BIOS version, the credits, and you can also install this on those cheat cartridges. If you remember them back in the day, you could put that in the back of the PlayStation 1 console. I don't currently own one, so I won't be able to review that at the moment. But the first thing first, go to boot CD and then simply put your game in, take out the memory card, put down the lid, and then boot PAL to NTSC. So this will force it now into the NTSC signal. This will also work the other way around if you wanted to do it that way. So again, this only takes a few seconds just to get things going. So here, as you can see with the NTSC copy, the video on the intro of Tekken 2 is now filling the screen, no bars at the top or the bottom, and that's because of the game's design resolution of 480. Now the resolution on PlayStation 1 games do change per game. The majority of them will have a 480 resolution output with the videos and the menu. So this is why this is actually filling this screen. Now when it comes to 60Hz output compared to 50Hz, you are actually getting more frames per second. So it just depends on how the game was actually designed in the first place, but majority of them, you may even get up to 15 to 20 frames per second more than of the PAL console. But with PAL games, it just seems how they were actually exported. A lot of them were sped up, so they can actually keep up with those frames per second. So let's give you a side-by-side footage now of the 50Hz on the left and the 60Hz on the right.
Round one, fight!
Well, it may not be that visible, but as you can see with the NTSC copy on the right hand side, there's more of a 4:3 type of square ratio than that on the left hand side of the screen, which is the 50Hz PAL version. So the PAL version does come across more of a rectangle shape, so it depends the actual TV you have, it will display a bit better. But now with the actual frames per second with the NTSC version I was playing, it does seem a bit more quicker. It was definitely having a few more frames, giving more of a faster, more fluid gameplay, but nothing too drastic than that of the PAL version. But it's always good to play the games how they originally was. So another game I tested out was Colin McRae Rally 2, an awesome game, one of my favourites of PlayStation 1, and again I was not really used to how the game was actually designed for 60Hz, so it did seem a bit faster than how I was originally playing it back in the day. So it was really interesting to see these games actually change and give you a better experience playing the games how they actually were designed.
So I really think this is now a really good feature to feature on the PlayStation 1. It's perhaps my favourable way now of playing my PAL version games. Now of course not all the catalogue is compatible with actually forcing this to NTSC 60Hz. For instance, there are a fair few problems. So a couple of games that I did come across, I did test around about 35 titles, and there was only a handful of games that were actually compatible with this. Basically you will put the game in and nothing will show, but there's a fair few titles that did have some problems. For instance, with Final Fantasy V there were some artifact problems at the bottom of the screen. You probably could play that, but that is kind of annoying. Another example is with Dino Crisis 2. Basically they just have some squiggly lines, so basically you could not use that game. But another one, for instance, is the Wipeout game. So that was actually made here in the PAL, but the actual videos that we played, they would actually be quite distorted and displaced quite lower on the screen, but then you actually play the game and it's completely fine. The actual structure of it is okay to play. So the percentage rate of actually getting those PAL games to be forced into NTSC is pretty high. So I do hope that you actually enjoy this video, and as always, if you liked it, hit that button. If you want to support this channel, hit the subscribe, leave your comments below, and I'll catch you a lot on the next video.